Okay, so for this book club, we chose The Road by Cormac McCarthy, one of my favorite authors. Let me go ahead and move this to the side. So a little bit about him. He was born in Rhode Island on July 20th, 1933, and was the third of six children. He had two brothers and three sisters. He was originally named Charles, but he sought to change his name to Cormac after an Irish king. Um, and then later I read that King Cormac McCarthy built the Blarney Castle in Ireland. Um, he was in the U.S. Air Force in 1953 after studying liberal arts at the University of Tennessee in 1951, and he spent 2 years stationed in Alaska. When he returned to the university, sorry, one second. Zach, can you stop talking, please? He published two stories, A Drowning Incident and Wake for Susan, for the student literary magazine, The Phoenix. Um, he was awarded the Ingram Merrill Award for Creative Writing in 1959. Sorry, one second. Um, After leaving the university, he was married for a short period to Lee Holloman and settled in Tennessee, having a son named Cullen. He started traveling due to a fellowship from the American Academy of Arts and Letters, and he toured Europe with his new wife he met on a boat, actually. Eventually, he moved back to America and wrote a variety of titles while living on the money granted by fellowships and awards. And then these are some of his other works that he's done. He was pretty prolific. Um, and I think one of them that I have read is Blood Meridian, or at least parts of it, and All the Pretty Horses. Um, he's the winner of the National Book Award, Pulitzer Prize, and the National Book Critics Circle Award. Okay, so this book was definitely very heavy, and I think that there was a lot to be said and a lot of things to grasp, kind of irrespective of maybe his very kind of brief sentence structure, or sometimes he had words that were very kind of short and to the point, but then within his sentences there was a lot of meaning, and I think that was a very interesting part of his structure. Um, and so, kind of this meditation on morality that he conducted was asking what makes human life meaningful, the relationship between God and things such as ethics, morality, etc. Um, this was the first thing that was actually said in the book. It was by the man, aka the child's father. If he is not the word of God, God never spoke. Either the man's son is the physical incarnation of the word of God, or the universe is godless. And as we go on, we'll kind of find that McCarthy explored a lot about what God means, and what the universe means, and what morality means. Um, the child functions as a symbol of man's conscience. Throughout the novel, father and son go back and forth between helping others and being suspicious of them. The man helps others at the urging of the child. Oh, yeah, thank you. Um, the man frequently tries to rationalize his avoidance of helping others because he believes in the altruism the child supports, but is simultaneously trying to survive and protect his child. Um, and then I thought that this was a really interesting scene, and this was really important. Um, the child in particular has a memory of a dog, and there was an incident that was alluded to that was kind of ambiguous, where the man perhaps killed a dog for food when his wife was still alive. And then when it was just the man and the child alone, they hear a dog bark in a town, and it reminds the child of the dog that the dad killed. Um, and so I'll read this quote and explain more. The dog that he remembers followed us for 2 days. I tried to coax it to come, but it would not. I made a noose of wire to catch it. There were 3 cartridges in the pistol, none to spare. She walked away down the road. The boy looked after her, and then he looked at me, and then he looked at the dog, and then he began to cry and to beg for the dog's life, and I promised that I would not hurt the dog. A trellis of a dog with the hide stretched over it. The next day it was gone. That is the dog he remembers. He doesn't remember any little boys. So this quote is referring to when the child thought or he did indeed see another child, and because the father is so protective of his son, he preferred to leave the child and not go and rescue it as the boy wanted, which is justifiable considering the environment. Um, but it's kind of alluding to how the child has a code of morality where he is always helping people and always wanting to reach out and connect, whereas the man has been so disaffected by the negative things that have happened to him that he would rather keep his world between his son and himself. Uh, and then go to the next slide. Perfect. So this is kind of a continuation of what I was saying. This flashback suggests that the man used the third bullet in the gun to kill the dog for food. His wife walked away because he did not want to see him kill the dog, and he feels as though he broke a promise to the child who begged him not to kill it. The man in the second situation denies that the child saw another child and says there are others to take care of him. So this is kind of like where McCarthy starts to differentiate between the child's code and the man's. Even though they follow the code of the good guys, the man doesn't follow it as strictly as the child, and he finds ways to kind of find excuses not to do the things the child wants to do because he's trying to protect him. This was from an article I really liked. It was referred to kind of as the slippery slope associated with morality. Sometimes it is morally permissible to violate the code of the good guys, but recognizing this can lead to impermissible actions. So the child represents the code where you always follow what you want to do and what you want to achieve in regards to being moral or having some sort of rules for yourself, whereas the man struggles with that but admires the child. And then there's 3 bullets in the gun, which are representative, I think, of suicide, self-defense, and killing for food. And there's a lot of kind of metaphorical implications of that, but we kind of start to see the interplay between the man and the child, and how they each survive in regards to the moralities they follow. So go on to the next slide. So McCarthy was raised Roman Catholic. The encounter with the old man Eli is actually an allusion to the prophet Elijah. I thought this was an interesting quote. Lo, I will send you the prophet Elijah before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes. He will turn the hearts of parents to their children and the hearts of children to their parents, so that I will not come and strike the land with a curse. And this is interesting because it kind of alludes to the relationship between the man and the child, where this utter destruction has turned them towards each other and fostered a dependence between them. Elijah was also an Old Testament prophet who predicted a drought, just as Eli, the old man, said that he thought that he foresaw this Armageddon coming. And then also the book of Malachi, the final book of the Old Testament. Malachi foretells the day of judgment, burning like an oven, when all the arrogant and all evildoers will be stubble. The day will leave them neither root nor branch. I thought this quote was interesting by Eli, the old man they ran into. There is no God and we are his prophets. And essentially that's kind of Eli, when they run into him, he kind of demonstrates that he doesn't believe that there is any higher good, and all of the chaos just renders them meaningless. And then the man tells the child very often that they're carrying the fire of the good guys. And that's kind of an allusion to Prometheus delivering the fire to humanity. As a punishment, he has his liver eaten by an eagle every day. Thanks, Greek mythology. But the man and the boy are carrying the fire and establishing a foundation as the good guys. The fire keeps them warm and maintains their life. However, it is also a remnant of past civilization and the violence that destroyed it. So here, kind of more as we dive into the book and kind of the levels that it presents to us, we can see that there's kind of an incentive maybe to be good and to have a code of morality, because it creates relationships and can confer survival for us, because those relationships help us to survive, whether it's through feeling good about ourselves or feeling good that we're doing good for other people. And McCarthy definitely presents to us a very devastating environment in which it takes a lot of strength and faith in his son, and his son having faith in the man to survive it. So let's go to the next slide. I thought this was interesting. I'm using a lot of references from this article I found to kind of dissect this book, but the categorical imperative is something that Immanuel Kant came up with, and the fundamental principle that the intrinsic worth of rational beings should always be respected. So that's what we see with the boy, where whenever the boy runs into people, he always has respect and kind of sees people as people, which is really, really different from the way that the cannibals are, where they eat others and they render people as things. So there's a distinction here that Kant makes where there's people and there's things. Things can be discarded. People must be valued and respected. And I think that this is starting to gesture at McCarthy's idea of morality and what it means to be good, is that the treatment of rational beings as living things and giving them respect, and I guess in this case, not eating them. Let's see what Autumn said really quick. Thank you, Padmini, by the way. Oh, Cormac, yeah, Tennessee. And then, did the father promise to kill the boy so the boy would not be left alone if the father finds himself in a situation where there is no way out? Yes, I think so. I forget the details of it, but I think that um, he wanted the boy to either kill himself in case um, there was potential of him being caught by one of the cannibals, or I think that the father did want to kill the boy if he was not going to be in the picture, which we see at the end when the father ends up revealing that he doesn't have the strength to kill the boy, even though he's going to die. Um, and in a way, I think that represents how the boy is carrying the fire in regards to the good guys and the morality that McCarthy thinks really needs to exist. So yeah, I think that is true. He promised. I'm not sure. I think he did promise him, but I think that the boy was kind of ambiguous about whether he wanted that or not. Okay, let's see. Um, let's see. And this is kind of some of their codes. Don't eat people, don't steal, don't lie, keep your promises, help others, and never give up. Um, and then here's another quote I found interesting by Kant. Hereby arises a propensity to quibble with these strict laws of duty, to cast doubt upon their validity, or at least upon their purity and strictness, and to make them where possible more compatible with our wishes and inclinations. Thereby are such laws corrupted in their very foundations, and their whole dignity is destroyed. So, in relation to what you said, Otto, kind of from this dense quote here, I think when the man promised the son that he would, or kind of told him that he was going to kill him, or told himself that he was going to do it, when he didn't end up doing it, I think McCarthy was kind of showing that um, this thing that reoccurs. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. Um, Essentially, the father deviates from his code or his promises occasionally, whereas the boy seems to stick with them. And I think the boy is representative of um, this quote where he doesn't cast doubt upon his morality, whereas the father occasionally does. I'm trying to figure out a way to say it without getting too dense. But at the last part of it, the father deviates from the promise that he told himself. And we can see throughout the book that the father is constantly going back and forth with the decisions that he makes, whereas the boy is not. And I think that Kant here is saying that it's very important to kind of stay true to your morality so that you don't cast doubt in yourself. However, I think at the end that it wasn't a bad thing that the father kept his son alive, because then he was able to carry the torch and still carry the fire for the good guys. And then here, if you break little promises, you'll break big ones. That's what you said. So this is kind of a recurring thing where the boy really keeps his promises and keeps his morality going. whereas the father really admires the boy for how strict he is in regards to following what he believes in, but the father struggles. Um, and then I thought that stating that there are good and bad guys is an oversimplification. McCarthy makes the distinction that while the man struggles to completely abide by the boy's code, he cares about idealism and doing good, and his desire to do good and seek beauty in good and weep for it, like he did on page 79, suggests that this is ultimately his code. So it is important to show that the father's kind of effort in being good and seek beauty in good is worthwhile, and it does mean something. Do you mind going to the next slide? And then each other's world entire. This was something said on page 6, basically talking about how the father and the son are everything to each other. In a way, we could say that maybe the son is the entire world at this point to the father, whereas the son still has the ability to see the world as including others. There's kind of this them versus other theme going on here. The father tells the son at the very end that he needs to find the good guys, but he can't take any chances. But interestingly, this is not possible for the child to do. And we see at the end that when the child has a conversation with the new family that take him up, that he did indeed have to take a chance and trust in other people in order to be saved and to survive. And I think that McCarthy uses this situation to suggest that the child's ability to trust other people and to want to distribute love to others is the way that the good guy's morality would ultimately survive. Whereas the father, being so dependent on the son, essentially kind of isolated himself and wouldn't be able to reach out and love others. And I think that would make it so that the good guys would ultimately die because they couldn't share what they believed. And then this was another quote. But when he bent to see into the boy's face under the hood of the blanket, he very much feared that something was gone that could not be put right again. And this was what the father saw in the child, and I think that what the father was fearing is that he feared that his child lost his capacity to see and trust other people. And then the boy's ability to carry the fire ensures that the code of the good guys will continue. The child has the ability to trust others, and that the man no longer has. Connections with others, the ability to build a community. The child, according to the man, is the best guy. So when the man says this, he recognizes that the child can still reach out to others and have this community and see that there is a possible good in the others, where the man knows that it's a little too late for him and that he can't extend his world beyond his child. All right, next slide. All right, to get even more dense and contemplative, what makes life meaningful? So the wife and the man are mentioned in the beginning and kind of throughout the novel. And something to be said about what she does. She commits suicide because she just doesn't think that they could come out of the situation and survive or not be eaten, is that it suggests that the wife believes in nothingness and hopes for it. She wants to kill herself and the child because she does not believe they will survive without being eaten. While the man initially agrees with her, his actions ultimately suggest that her opinion is not valid. His dedication towards delivering the child to safety demonstrates that within the relationship between him and the child, a code does exist, a propensity towards goodness. So simply the fact that the man's love for the child and the child's ability to see good exists suggests that there is some sort of, ability for them to manifest it. So the wife kind of lost hope and wanted to abandon the idea that could exist. But the fact that they continue to try to survive, I think, demonstrates that there is a way for them to manifest that within maybe a future community or other people. And people often struggle with fear of meaninglessness, meandering in a different universe. But McCarthy suggests that meaning is derived from our shared connections, our ability to feel love for one another and indulge in those relationships. The day providential to itself, the hour, there is no later, this is later. So he whispered to the sleeping boy, I have you. So essentially, all of the value that the man starts to derive from his life is just his everyday experiences with the boy, whether or not they're standing in the rain or the snow. The meaning in his life is derived from very minimal, kind of seemingly meaningless interactions that we actually learn can be very meaningful and filled with love and empathy and dedication. Very powerful things that allow them to survive in an otherwise insurvivable environment. And then this was from the article that I really liked. The absence of connections with others is the real threat to meaning and value. The source of meaning and value is love. The greatest fear of the man and the child is not death, but rather being alone. It is telling that the wife goes off by herself to commit suicide. Her death does not sever her connections with others, rather, it frees her from an existence in which all such connections have already been severed. Again, what is true in the world of the novel is true of our world as well. The best predictor of suicide is social isolation. So in the book, we start to figure out that McCarthy really, I think, believes that the way that we derive meaning from our life and the way that we can push ourselves forward is by having connectiveness and by distributing love to each other. And I think that this is really important to think about as we read the book, because he really deliberately presents a very formidable and scary environment, and something that I think shocks us throughout the book. I know that there are many times that I was shocked, but at the same time has a really profound and beautiful underlying message, which is that love kind of confers survivability irrespective of the situation. And the boy and the child seem to represent this. So next slide, please. All right. And then there's also, oh, sorry, just one back. Perfect. So to continue on this, what about the possibility of morality in a godless universe? Can such a thing exist? And so this is kind of interesting because I think that McCarthy doesn't really give us a solution or an answer directly about whether or not he believes in God. But rather he kind of makes us ponder about the possibility of being moral in case there wasn't one. So it's honoring the inherent value of small activities that are valuable in and of themselves. These activities make connections with others. When the man deviates from the child's code, I made a typo. The child does not speak to him for a while. The man feels weakened by this waning in their connection. Therefore, the man's ability to gain trust and faith in the child through his actions as a good guy sustains the man, and that it sustains their relationship. So if we were to experiment and think about reading this book in the context of their world and not having God, essentially the morality for the man comes from doing what the child finds right and being able to manifest a good relationship with him. And so that kind of becomes his motivation every day, is that he's showing the child that he can be a good guy and does everything that he can to show the child that he is one. And when they do something that the child doesn't like as much, then he doesn't want to talk, and the father really depends on that to keep him going. There's also kind of incentive to be good just based on the experience of others, obviously, so not inflicting pain in order to save others the experience of horrifying or unpleasant things. And an interesting thing is that the cannibals make themselves into things by their actions. They choose to eat others and ignore respect for human life. So they are therefore subject to disrespect and being eaten by their own. So I think this is actually a very personal incentive to be someone that, besides eating someone else, probably seems like a really strange and horrible thing to do. But you aren't, in kind of a selfish way, you aren't making yourself valuable or respectable to others if you're treating others in a way that that takes away their own self-respect or kind of their existence as beings that are more than just things. So I think McCarthy talks about that and alludes to it, how the cannibals are become things even to each other, and there's not that connectedness and that love, and that doesn't confer survivability. Maybe for the end is your background in literature. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about it at the end. Padmini, thank you. And then C.S. Lewis, he talks a lot about religious stuff, kind of like a philosophy, and he's really interesting. And if you ever get the chance, you should read him. The answer to all those who object to the doctrine of hell is itself a question. What are you asking God to do to leave them alone? Alas, I am afraid that is what he does. So this is referencing again that hell is isolation in a way, and that the cannibals are self-isolating in that they don't have a relationship made out of love or respect for one another. And so it's they are things and they don't have others to depend on, which is the ultimate form of isolation. McCarthy, while he does not offer us a solution, once again, he clearly suggests that the code of the good guys is universal and centered around love, whereas the code of the bad guys ultimately leads to loneliness and insignificance. The book made me think about how people were hoarding in the beginning of the pandemic, fighting for toilet paper and hand sanitizer. Yes, exactly. You know, it's kind of like that type of selfishness or maybe self-interestedness confers more of that, and I think can create hysteria. Whereas when we work together and maybe try to make community and try to find systems and with each other and use each other's talents to collaborate, it can actually confer survivability in a nicer environment. So yeah, I totally, it also reminded me of all of this, which is why I was apprehensive at first about picking it, but I think it's actually a helpful book to read in a strange way. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Cool. So I thought this was really cool. I just read the brothers Karamazov. I think that's how you say it. And Dostoevsky actually talks a lot about a very similar type of love. He calls it active love. Alyosha, the main character in Dostoevsky's book, is a symbol of the practice of active love, meaning that love has to become joined to an action, gesture, or a deed. Active love is more than a feeling or a thought, it is a concrete action. And I thought that this was very directly relatable to this book, and that you can have feelings of love and empathy, and that's your foundation, but then you actually have to act on it and do things in order to kind of reap the benefits of it in the real world. There are intentions and then there are actions. This was from the introduction of the Brothers Karamazov. Love automatically entails a self-forgetting, a self-renunciation, a self-sacrifice that is the core of ethics. When we give up on love, when we no longer want love because we come to believe that the other doesn't want to give it to us, is unable to give it to us, or more awful, actually hates us, we die or we kill ourselves. We turn to the only other beyond death. So I think that this is actually insanely relevant in that Cormac suggests that when we lose that action, when we start to lose our morality and our sense that our actions confer things in the real world, it ultimately or kind of inevitably leads us to death and chaos. So as human beings, it seems as though we need some sort of moral code, set of boundaries, ability to tell ourselves that the good things that we do will manifest into a more organized way of being with each other, that we can then avoid chaos and kind of thinking that death is our only option. And then this was a quote from Dostoevsky. Active love is a harsh and fearful thing compared with love and dreams. Love and dreams thirst for immediate action, quickly performed and with everyone watching. Indeed, it will go as far as the giving even of one's life, provided it does not take long but is soon over, as on stage, and everyone is looking on and praising. Whereas active love is labor and persistence, and for some people, perhaps a whole science. So, um, I think that a lot of books I've read, especially from Dostoevsky, in relation to the road, suggest that we need to actively do things um, in order to make sure that we have the things that we want, the society that we want, the relationships we want, and the foundation needs to be in love and in empathy. Um, and I think that this is really important to think about, especially in times like this, where everything seems awry and there's a lot of chaos and kind of the roof over our head has been blown off. But in the end, if we put the dependability on us and on the connections that we make, that we can actually create for ourselves a structure and see a lot of good in each other, and create that structure that we really want and miss, I think. Um, and then go to the next slide. And then these are just some things to ponder. Yeah, exactly. Not enough to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk, which is hard because it puts a lot of responsibility on ourselves. And then some things to ponder, just some questions that I thought were interesting. He ends the story with a quote: "In the deep glens where they lived, all things were older than man, and they hummed of mystery." I think Mccarthy has a really beautiful way of integrating nature and kind of this. He has a reverence for ancient things and the way that they're related to us. And I think he's talking about catfish in this quote and how they hang out in caves and they follow their own tradition, which may be considered secular, godless, or just based on biology and environment, but at the same time follow some sort of code. And what does that mean to us? This book is infinitely dense in that regard, and so I thought it would be cool just to hear what people had to say. I tried to introduce some of these concepts, albeit there's a lot to tackle in this book, which is why I think it's such a great one, and I think a lot of people like it. So that's kind of just my spiel on kind of the basics of it, or some of the intenser parts. I think we went over a little bit, but if anyone had anything to say, I'd love to hear it. And then I think I saw from Padmini. I thought you said something. Yeah, so I studied literature in college. So that was really fun. I loved it. I would tell everyone to do it. But I really liked Russian literature, and this book reminded me a lot of Russian literature. I think that they had a lot of problems in their society, and it caused a lot of the really profound thinkers in that part of the world to contemplate questions like this. So I think McCarthy was on the same page as they were. And then I think actually too, Otto sent me some of his thoughts. Let me see.
Danielle, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having so much problems with my computer today. So
Right.
if someone's kind enough to take some photos, I really love seeing. I don't know if you can share, Danielle, because I love looking at your notes, and I was like not good at paying attention today. So who from Autism Tree is recording this today?
I'm recording it.
You are? Okay, great. Can you text me your phone number?
Yeah.
Or text me at my phone number. It's 619 980-8614. And then before we end, we'll try to do a photo together. But I just love what you're doing, Danielle. And to me, I think when I'm looking at all the questions and contemplation, I feel like this is feels like an act of love that you're doing. That's what I feel. I feel you're sharing your passion, and you're doing it like we said. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing over here. But you're doing it at a time when we're all really just wondering, like, when is this sort of chaos going to stop, right, with our
Right.
world?
Right.
And to Otto's point, I was actually, I've only gotten a little over halfway through in the road right now. They're at the beach and he's on the boat is where I'm at.
Okay.
But I for some reason was thinking about when Garrett and I went to La Mesa and how burnt out it was. And I was just there yesterday picking up something, and at the Grossmont Mall, some friends of mine own that shop, The Preview, and they said they were there all night during the riots, just praying their whole business that they've built their whole life wouldn't be torn apart and burnt down. Which Garrett's second grade teacher, I didn't know that the father had an engineering company in La Mesa, and it was huge, and they burnt it all to crisps. I mean, the guy's whole life work. And so I actually, when I've been reading the book, was kind of thinking about, out of the blue, what happened in La Mesa, the most cutest random place,
Yeah.
and going to visit it with Garrett, and it just being a total shambles and it was very random. What was a shambles? Like this engineering company,
Right.
where actually there is an architecture firm, sorry, but it's just so devastating to see they torched it, many people's lives, and how bizarre and random it was, and just it seemed to me so out of the blue, right?
Right. Well, I think this book was actually, because at first I was kind of like, oh man, like the spike happened, and then we're reading The Road. But then when I finished it, I'm like, wow, this is actually very helpful, because I think we're we realize after a lot of thinking that we can make a choice, which is that we can let the chaos overtake us, or we can, say that we have relationships, we have an ability to connect, we have an ability to love, and that will be the roof over our head. And so far, I mean, it's been enough to create the society that we live in, where, we try to put people in houses, we try to, care for one another, and that exists. And I think there's value in that. And, so there is um, that kind of existence of chaos, and that does happen to us. But then at the same time, we can go back and we can say, well, we can battle that with our connections to each other, and our understanding of one another, and our respect for one another. And
Yeah.
the fact that I really liked the Kant concept, where it was like, if you're a rational being, you deserve respect, and you deserve to be treated as something that matters. There's a difference between beings and things. And I think that can really help people during times where it seems chaotic, and there's not kind of like, um, a very defined source of like what is and what isn't. I think when you depend on each other, and depend on that love and that empathy, that it can really create a lot of strength. So that's what the book, I think, was ultimately trying to suggest. And I think he used a really, really drastic environment to demonstrate that even in something as harsh as that was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just, my strong feeling when I just look at all of you on the screen, I do like that, and that's why I don't really like not having my face on the screen, because I want to feel like I'm seeing you and you're seeing me, and I like how that feels.
Yeah.
So it feels really to me right now, because I'm trying to have my iPhone be on the computer, and anyway. But the thing about it is, when I look at everybody right now, I love that Jeff's here from Massachusetts,
Yeah.
and Otto and Shelley and Padamini. I mean, I just feel like it's a diverse little quadrant right here, and I love that, Danielle. I love that you're bringing us together, and it's just I don't know. It's something I personally look forward to, and the books you choose are ones that, you know, really, I find it really, every book that we've done on this book club has been something I probably wouldn't normally choose, which, except for the one which I'd already read, but I like it. I like, you know, looking at things from different angles, and I love hearing everybody's thoughts on it.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I think it can be challenging to read books that you normally wouldn't pick, but then it can be one of the best experiences ever.
Mhm.
I know I've had that experience a couple times, at least in classes, and when you kind of deviate from where you usually hang out, it can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Should I read the? I wanted to read the document that Otto sent me. Should I do that, Dana?
Oh yeah, definitely. I always love what everything Otto contributes. I love a lot.
Cool. So he said, kind of, a story about a father's love, a son's faith, and survival. Quotes themes he liked were "the good guys right, we're carrying the light," right? Yep, I liked those too. Themes I felt throughout the book: compassion in the face of self preservation, wanting to help people, but knowing sharing limited resources may put your own survival at risk. If someone cannot help you, it does not mean they will harm you. When they came upon the old man in tattered clothes who was all alone, right? Um, Only the mother's name is revealed, Beth. The father and son dynamic is universal, interchangeable, but you only have one mother, right? The father let the son live because he knew the son could still see the light, and the boy gave his father hope for humanity. Yeah. So I think so too. And that is interesting. I didn't think about that. Only the mother's name was revealed. So I almost wonder if Mccarthy did that to kind of say that even though she fell victim to the chaos, that by giving her a name in the book, he almost like uplifted her and said that she still matters, and kind of disproved her in a way. So like you know, according to the cannibals, that people uh, they eat people, people are things, they don't matter. But then by giving the mom a name, even though she succumbed to their morality or feared it, McCarthy was saying that she mattered, and that she was capable. Yeah, exactly. Immortalized her, which I think suggests that she's a rational being, and that she is memorable and doesn't fall victim to the cannibal form of morality. So I think that's cool. I didn't notice that actually. Let's see. And then I think also compassion in the face of self-preservation, you know, wanting to help people, but knowing sharing limited resources may put your own survival at risk. The father, I think, justifiably had this in mind, but then the child just maintained this really ancient, or whatever you'd call it, inclination towards always helping people. And I think the father was so, you know, yeah, exactly. Say their name. Names confer respect, and they confer identity. And putting his own survival at risk, it seems like the child didn't think about that, or he did, but it was ultimately the most important to him to establish that connectedness. So, but yeah, I like this document, Otto. It's cool. I wouldn't have realized that he only said Beth's name. I didn't think about that.
Really quickly, do you guys mind if we take a picture just in case anybody needs to head out, because it is technically it's 11:45, so I just want to make sure we all get a group picture before anyone needs to leave.
Sure.
Thank you.
Cool. Everybody turn on their cameras and smile. I'm just going to try to make this screen big. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Right. Okay, cool.
What's your first name, sweetie? I forgot. I'm sorry.
McKenna.
McKenna. Okay. Did you text
Yeah.
McKenna?
I have not texted you the video yet because I'm waiting till I end the Zoom and then I can get some.
You can just text me to say hi so I have your number.
Okay. Let me make sure I have the right number. You said 619. Is it 980-9614?
8614.
Sorry, can you just say the whole number again? I just want to make sure I have it right.
Yeah, it's 619
Mm-hmm.
980 8614. And I want to thank you for doing this today. I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be Alexa, so I apologize.
No, you're all good. She had something else. I'm not exactly sure what, but yeah, I just filled in for her today.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you much.
Danielle, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask Shelly something really quick about the book. Shelly, when Danielle and everyone was just talking about just how the boy was so open to sharing and not thinking about the ramifications, I think it's so interesting because you could be the most giving parent, and then when you're faced with your child having any kind of a worrying about their well-being, I think I think most parents would behave the exact same way the father was, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's that idea of being a mama bear, and where, and they have to, I also think it's interesting that every time you take a flight, they have to remind you to put on your own mask first, because an inclination of a parent is, I've got to protect my child.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're unconscious, nobody's going to help your child. So I think that's an interesting thing, that every single time you take a flight, they remind you, get your own mask on first. Right. So yeah, I think that's just becoming a parent and having that kind of that level of love and commitment. So yeah, I do. And also the how the father had an internal conflict about, having to go against the codes that he tried to teach his son. And when they came upon that bunker that was full of food, and the boy just kept saying, we're not stealing, right? We're not stealing. They're gone, right? It's okay. They would want us to have this, right? So I think, it's such a universal theme. So yeah, I totally agree. And I
hear what you had to say about it.
Yeah, no, it's so true, because you find yourself doing things as a parent that you never thought you would do. Never.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say too, Danielle, and not to get out, I feel like it's in reflection of the book, even though I'm going to say, Autism Tree is 16 years old, and I'm so fascinated by the paradigm shift that's happened. Like in the early days, Shelly, like when we met, I was just having mothers reach out to me, just like yourself, right? I remember, the day we met, but Danielle, today, I would say, at least in the last 5 years, I'm telling you the truth, just the facts, is that everybody that reaches out to me that I'm directly dealing with is a father. The fathers, for some reason, are like, for lack of a better way to put it, they are in the driver's seat like this father. Now, the mother is not disappeared. She's around, but I personally have not met most of these mothers. And I'm not picking them up. It's just an absolute paradigm shift that I'm actually experiencing with Autism Tree Project. And I think it's really fascinating to me that the father is in this role. And I see that in my daily life for the last 5 years with the foundation.
Right. It's that's why I really like McCarthy, is he talks about such profound things, but and it can be very dense, but at the same time, it's at the root of it, he's just talking about like parent-child relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what I also think is interesting too is in the last 20 years, I think society's given men permission to be part of their young children's lives 20 years ago, there were no diaper changing stations in a men's bathroom. So I think just society's given permission for the dads to be part of it. Before it was like, no, the moms just, I remember my older kids, I didn't know one husband that took their kids to the pediatrician, not one.
Wow.
And now it's a joint thing, my husband's taking him today because I have to go to work or whatever.
Right.
So I just think, because my older kids are in their 20s, so I've seen the shift, and it's just amazing. But I think it's because society's allowed the dads to be involved. So I think that is a wonderful thing that you're seeing more dads, because before I don't think that they felt like that was their realm where they could even ask, like, oh, she'll just take care of it. She just takes care of those things.
Right.
But now it's they feel the ability that they're welcome to come and be part of child rearing. And I think that's just, in the last 20 years. So I'm so glad to hear, because it's exhausting being the only one. It's nice to share.
Exactly. It's nice to have help. It's interesting too, because this, I think, was published in 2009. So it's surprised, or in 2009, it was, let me see. It surprised me when I saw that, even though he's like, relatively, he does a lot of stuff pretty recently. It's still like.
When was his son born, Danielle? Because I know that clip that Dana had sent with the Oprah interview.
Yeah.
He said that he thought of this book
maybe
because of his son.
Okay. Yeah, I think his son maybe in the 1960s, because I think he had the son with his first wife. I'm trying to remember, but yeah, that made me feel better after picking this book. I saw it was part of Oprah's book club. So I was like, okay, it's not too dark, like people in the basement being eaten. I was like, oh my gosh, like. But yeah.
What did Padamini say? She wrote something in and I saw it, but I couldn't see all of it.
Oh, she was asking me if my background was in literature.
No, something about traveling, something about
Oh yeah, I met a lady, she does travel tours, and she was looking for autistic people to take them on travel tours. So I was like, yeah, you should definitely contact ATPF. So I passed her Rebecca's information. So I just wanted to ask you if that was good to do it that way.
Who did you pass it to, Padine?
Her name is Ruby Fitzgerald, and
if you
she
want to connect with me, you can. I will let her.
Okay, but I don't have like any of your information. So I just gave her the website.
Why don't you text me and we'll communicate about it. My cell phone, you can take my cell phone and then text me. It's 619 980 814.
814
8614.
Yeah, she's been doing it for 50 years, and she was really into it. So I was like, this sounds like really fun, like if you're taking them on a travel tour, yeah, by all means, of course.
Well, if you guys don't already know, I love people that want to open up new doors for Autism Tree, and I see Otto opening up new doors that I don't even imagine with the typers community, and I want that to grow organically as it is, Otto. But you have my admiration and support. Like, I want more of that. And also the other thing is that we have grown organically our teen program from 2 teens that went to a movie to there's well over 100. McKenna, are you involved with the teen program at all at Autism Tree?
I haven't been yet. I have gone to like 2 or 3 of the social hours, but that's pretty much all I've done with the teen program for now.
But there's well over 100 kids, right? If you guys don't mind, I want to give appreciation to McKenna for doing this today. And can you just tell me, McKenna, and our group here, like a little bit about yourself, just so we know?
Yeah, so I'm currently a student at San Diego State. I'm a junior. I'm from Orange County, so about an hour north, and I started interning with ATPF, I think in mid-October, around then, sometime around then. Yeah, but I've been having a really good time so far getting to know everyone, and I went to the drive through Winter Wonderland thing, and I had such a blast. That was really fun.
Oh, did you see Otto there?
I think I did. There were so many people there because that was my first time seeing everybody in person since everything has been basically online since I've started interning here. So I just got to meet everyone and it was really fun.
I'm so glad. That's awesome. I'm an Aztec too. I graduated from San Diego State a long time ago. Well, have we met in person before, McKenna?
I'm not sure if we've
Okay.
actually met in person before.
Okay, well, I'm really glad. I hope you'll want to do the book club again with us. Danielle, if Danielle wants to keep going, I love what you're doing, Danielle, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully next time sorry, go ahead.
Had you read this book?
No, I actually haven't because I wasn't planning on doing the book club thing until like 2 days ago, so I didn't have enough time. But I'll definitely check out like actually reading the book for the next one. That would be cool, so I could like join in and listen in and like know what's going on. But yeah.
Yeah. Otto, just type something in. Sorry, I missed it.
Oh, he just said that about the holiday drive-through that he was telling McKenna that we rolled deep with my brothers. So he was there with his two brothers and they were wearing Santa hats and dancing.
It was right
dancing
before
to the
Santa.
DJ.
You were right before Santa, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were at the end. We were right by the Boy Scouts. So it was really fun.
I was so blown away that it went so well, never having done that before. I always get really nervous when we've never done anything before, and particularly with this whole COVID situation. Todd was like agonizing, like, oh God, I hope Santa doesn't get COVID. We were all too close to Santa, you know. He was like, oh my God. So Danielle and Otto, what do you think about when are we doing another book club and what book are you guys thinking?
Anytime and any book, you know. I'm open to suggestions.
Do you have any, Padimi?
Yeah, I was thinking like kind of broadly on it. I was thinking on books on the concept of love or like that theme kind of.
On the concept of love?
Yeah, I mean that's what was on my mind right now. That's why I was thinking about that.
Okay.
Otto, do you have any books that you want us to read? Danielle, have you been putting any thought into a book for the book club?
I mean, it's hard because I don't want to pick a book that's too dry. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, gosh, I can probably come up with a list again and send out a text.
Okay.
How about business books?
Sure. Yeah.
I just ordered Ariana Huffington's Thrive, but never got to reading it. But if you put it on the list, then I have to read it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be great. Geez, that's a subject I definitely need to dive into more, probably. Business and economic stuff. Reading too much fiction these days.
No, I mean, what you did was a great job because I mean, philosophy is so dense to even cut through it, that people cannot even read the original philosophy unless they hear somebody else talk about it to make
Yeah.
some sense out of it.
Yeah.
So what you did was just amazing.
Thank you. I would say definitely check out the article at the end if you like that type of stuff. I thought it was like it was a really straightforward explanation of everything, because he is a pretty dense guy. You know what I mean? So it's like I love it, but at the same time I was apprehensive because covering all of that in 50 minutes is a lot.
Yeah, was that Kant that said that I do because I am, or something like that, and it was like a
Oh yeah.
my like a century changing word or sentence or something. And I mean, I read that so many times, it still didn't cut through me. I was like, what is it about?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I need to get more into like Kant and all of those people, but I think I think he did say something like that. I'm trying to remember. Thank you. I'm trying. You know, this book was great, but it's I was like, oh man, we're reading about the apocalypse during the apocalypse. I typed, therefore I am. Yes. I like that.
Otto, will any of your typer friends want to join the book club too? McKenna, what are you studying while Otto's typing? What do you study? What is your area of study?
I'm a psychology major.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's,
Again,
really cool. It's very interesting.
are they nervous? Can you help me understand? Oh, thank you, Penny. Me, I feel like that's a gift today. It makes me want to cry. Thank you. Seriously, thank you. You know, I don't do well with change, and there's lots of change happening all the time. And I feel like, Danielle, somehow your book club helps me, and I can't even put that into words.
Thank you.
And I like seeing, you know, the mix of different ages and we're all in different chapters in our life.
Mhm.
And I love, you know, Danielle, that you're looking at applying to med schools, and you know, it's fun to see everybody keep moving forward in their own ways, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Otto, I missed it. What did it say, Danielle?
He said they're afraid they won't have anything to add.
Oh,
I know, we try to explain to them that it's not like a class, right? Because they're afraid, like, well, what if I can't answer a question, or what if I don't understand the themes of the book? And we tried to explain to them that Danielle makes it like a salon, you know, like during the French Revolution. You know, it's
Yeah.
even if you don't finish the book, or even if you don't read the book, you can walk away with something, just connecting with people on themes about the book, themes about love and relationships. It goes beyond the book.
Yeah.
And so they're just afraid, and so we try to encourage them, like, well, you can just come and lurk, like, you don't even have to put your screen on, you can just
Tell them to put it on
come in and
timer.
lurk, and then you don't even have to have your video on, you can just come and listen and hang out. So I think if we pick a book and then he'll tell his friends about the book ahead, then they can come and lurk, because they're just really, and I think it's just being a typer and just school's so hard, school administrations are not welcoming. So just the idea of going in to a situation where the framework of the meeting is about a book,
Right.
they're just afraid of that. It's like a performance anxiety. So so we're trying to help them get over that. Because Otto's not nervous to hang out, like as you can see.
Yeah.
He, you know, he enjoys sharing his thoughts. He doesn't feel that performance anxiety stuff, but a lot of his friends really do.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and encourage them to just come and just lurk next time and just you don't even have to have your screen on, and just enjoy the conversation and the connection. Oh yeah, we'll get them. We'll get them to come. Yeah, they will. They'll come.
Yeah, they can treat it like a podcast.
Exactly.
You know, like they can put it on car mode and like just have it playing, you know. I think that'd be
Yeah,
fun.
because there's no expectations. You can just come and listen. You don't have, you know, you walk away with just a connection. You don't. Otto likes to write ahead, like what he feels about the book, just because that's Otto's personality, but that's not a requirement.
I think that's true, though. I think school makes things punitive sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely have, like, not to use such a heavy word, but definitely trauma from certain classes or experiences with teachers where they make you seem like bad or something. You don't understand or so, but that's I don't think that's conducive to people learning because they focus on being scared. So
you can't learn if you're scared or
anxious.
Well, Otto, I want you to know something from me. I always am inspired and learn from you every time you come to anything that I'm on, whether it's on Zoom or at the neuroscience conference. You really look at things from a different angle and you make me see things that I didn't see. And that's why I say I see you as an eagle at Autism Tree. And I love that Danielle and you are connecting like this. And I think that when you bring more of your typer friends, I only see something really interesting and multidimensional happening from it. Don't you? Do you think that, Shelley? Because I know you know the group, the community very well. But that's what I feel. I feel like it could be really valuable.
Yeah, I think it's and especially in this strange pandemic, it's just the weirdest thing, but so many kids, you know, they're universally using Zoom, and the chat box is there, because even typical kids who are having classrooms, the teachers are encouraging them to put their questions in the chat box. You know, don't interrupt the lecture, put your questions in the chat box. So typical kids are experiencing what the typers live with all the time. So so it's just really opening so many people's eyes that you can have interaction through text in real time.
Yeah.
And with seeing each other, because of course everybody, you know, for 10 years now or whatever has had iPhones that have the ability to text, but it hasn't really been seen in this type of format, in this type of connection, and this type of human connection. So so yeah, I think this weird year has really opened people's eyes to kids like Otto and his friends, because there's been no barriers of, well, you can't come to class, you're going to be disruptive to the other kids. You know, whatever it is they feel is disruptive, having an adult that supports, or maybe you know, some of his mannerisms, you know, when he gets excited, you see him rocking back and forth, or, you know, make some sounds, whatever, that allegedly were not conducive to a neurotypical classroom. Well, you push mute, and nobody's bothered. You know, some friends, they'll turn off their camera if they just need to jump, or if they just need to bounce on their ball, or if they just need to get up and walk around. They'll just turn off their camera. They're still present, but they'll turn off the camera. So yeah, this weird year has really opened things up for kids that type. So oddly enough.
Right.
So, but no, we really appreciate the openness to participate in this, because this is wonderful. It doesn't matter if you talk or not. You know, if you can read a book and you can enjoy it, then you can be part of it. And even if you don't read it, you can still be part of it. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So we're gonna keep at the friends and keep encouraging them to come and participate. So, and it's a good time too. Saturday morning. It's, there's not much going on.
I actually myself, I sometimes like cheating a little bit, where I look at what people have to say about the book before I read it. So, geez. And it helps me read it, I think, and retain more of it, so I think that people do what they can, I mean, because sometimes it's like in this book, for example, I had to look up a bunch of different sentences that ended up being really dense allusions to like God knows who. And so I think, it's okay to like feel like you don't understand something, but just practice. And even just listening, when you don't understand at first, I think can be so helpful, so even if they just listen and just get exposure to hearing people talk about literature and it's all practice, you know what I mean? It all contributes to getting better and to improving, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah. Otto says that he likes to read books that challenge him and that have different vocabulary, because that's the way you learn vocabulary. You don't learn vocabulary by here's your 10 words to memorize. You learn vocabulary by experiencing it. And John Krakauer is an author that we really like too. And he's another one that challenges us because his vocabulary is so vast, and he's got the $5 words that we have to go look up. But his descriptions are like Cormac too, where the descriptions, you feel like you're there. And Otto's often said, I spend so much time in my head that I enjoy reading things that allow my imagination to go even further.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about books, is you feel like maybe it feels really productive in a way, because having a physical book that you finish, it's like, oh, I finished it. I like to stack my books a lot to show myself that I've been productive in my thinking sometimes and being in my head.
Well, thank you guys. You've been so patient, and I'm really grateful for you to do this. And Danielle, you're helping us grow, and you're doing it with love, and I feel that.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
And I love the co-host with you.
Yeah, I do too. If you guys
Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. I think Otto's typing something really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, he just says he likes to imagine the author creating the book and creating the story and finding the perfect words. He always says that when he reads a story, he also takes it even further back to the author sitting at his typewriter or writing, or whatever mode they choose. He likes to imagine that person that came up with the story. So the person's imagination that was so deep. So
I'm with that too, but I'm a visual person, and so I always will stop and I want to see the author talking. I want to like feel the author. So that's why I Google, and I like want to hear the author talking. And when it's a normal situation, I like to go to the book signings. I will listen to any author about anything just because I'm impressed they wrote a book. And the bestseller ones, usually it took 10 years is what I found out.
Yeah.
You guys know, but I would love us to experience it one day, is they have a literary society in San Diego. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's been such a cool thing to experience. I had to be on a waiting list over 2 years. How I found out about it is I bid on an auction basket at a diabetes event at Humphreys, and it was this huge basket, and it had all this wine. And Todd was like, "No, Dana, you can't get that, Garrett." And I was like, "I'm in it to win it," even though it had wine, and he was like in middle school. And one of the books caught my eye that was in it, and it said like, these books are part of a literary society. These are all the authors that came last year. And if you win this auction item, then you get to come to the literary society event and sit at the author's table. And I was like obsessed. And one of the books was my favorite funny book I've ever read. It was called Where'd You Go, Bernadette? And it was awesome, funniest book I've ever read. But then when they made it a movie, it wasn't funny, but it is a movie. But the movie, even though it had good actors, was not great. But the bottom line is, I won it. I took Garrett, and it was at the Grand Del Mar in Rancho Santa Fe, and there was like 200 people.
Oh, the Manchesters, yeah.
Yeah, and I ended up seeing people, and then I was like, how do you join this thing? And then it was like a 2-year wait to actually get it. And I find out that they have 6 different chapters. One started in La Jolla, and I met people that were on that waiting list in La Jolla 7 years. They got so mad they started one in Del Mar, and they have one, I think, in Orange County, Palm Springs, and they just started one in Vegas. And it's all of my company that runs it. So if you're the author, you get to go to the 6 different chapters when you do it. And all of them are best-selling, but I did it for like 2 years now, and every author was so different from each other. That the guy that did the Longmire one and came in with the big hat, and he writes in his ranch in Montana. They had the woman from the UK that wrote Radiant Girls.
Okay, cool.
And I love them all. Yeah, it's so different, but
Wow.
My bottom line is I love actually seeing the author and hearing their voice and what they're like.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful. Actually, it can give you a lot of context.
Yeah, well, it sure did when you watch the guy talking to Oprah, right? Watch this author talking to Oprah, was like, whoa.
Yeah, he was so soft-spoken, and he was just humble, and did you notice he was kind of slouched in the chair and just so relaxed, and nothing was a big deal. And it was just his presence there with her was
like, you're the only author that didn't want to like promote the book and make money. Do you care if people read it? No. Or something like that.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
That was really good. All right, you ready? Yeah, okay. Thanks everybody so much. We had so much fun.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, McKenna.
We can't wait for the next one. Let us know what you guys pick.
Okay.
Have a beautiful
Okay,
day.
bye everybody.
Bye, everyone.